Council's in session. Please be seated. Next council is being held in a hybrid meeting format with virtual and in-person participation by members of the public, staff, and council. This meeting is also being live streamed and may be viewed online at ajax.ca/live. A friendly reminder to all participants to please use their microphone at all times for the benefit of those participating in council chambers and joining remotely. To those making submissions as part of a public meeting, please ensure you sign in using the sheet available at the accessible lectern to preserve rights available to you under the Planning Act or other applicable legislation. Now call this meeting to order. Start with the land acknowledgement. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is situated within the traditional and treaty territories of the Mississaugas, more specifically the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, signatories of the Gunshot Treaty of 1788 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. This land is and will continue to be home to the Indigenous peoples. Let us acknowledge the mistakes and traumas of the past through authenticity and support truth and reconciliation. Let us engage and celebrate Indigenous communities by being leaders of action in acknowledging the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations towards truth and reconciliation. Let us keep these principles close as we continue towards truth and reconciliation and as we move forward with kindness and respect as a community. Does any member of council have any disclosure of pecuniary interest on matters on today's agenda? No. Hearing, seeing none. We have no delegations, presentations. Oops, hold on a second. We have one public meeting today, item 3.1, public meeting, official plan amendment application OPA 24-A2, zoning bylaw amendment Z6/24, 101 Pickering Beach Road and 235 Bailey Street East. Now, as this was brought forward as an official plan, zoning amendment under strong mayor powers, there is not a presentation, but this is a public meeting. So at this point, I will ask if any member of the public would like to speak on this matter. Please come forward and you would have 5 minutes. Please come forward. There should be a pen there. Please sign your name and sign in and state your name when you're ready.
My concern with this new structure is how are you going to support it with the gridlock? Even power, like last night down on Pickering Beach, we must have lost the power 4 or 5 times. There is not enough off our grid to support that many. Also, the street itself is a dead-end street, which now everybody is using to make U-turns because it's so hard to turn left onto Bailey. There's no room for parking, and there's not enough parking supplied by this building. My other concern is that when developers come in and they ask for something, they ask for a 12-story building. Okay, we got our okay for a 12-story building. Let's go back and ask for 25. Does this not cost us money with the planning departments and refiguring everything out? Like, I just have major concerns that everything is being crammed into South Ajax. We don't have the hospital. We're waiting 6 hours for see a doctor now. We'll be waiting 12. We're trying to cram too much into a place that we can't look after. The schools are bursting at the seams. So to try to cram that many more people into the area is just ludicrous in my idea. That's it.
Okay. Does any member of council have any questions? Excuse me, Ms. Lindner. I'll just try and answer your questions. First, to the power outages, that's unfortunate, but unfortunately that is a condition over most of South Ajax. It's aging infrastructure, it's mostly above ground, large mature trees interfering, animal interferences, a number of other things. Alexcon is working towards more reliability, but it is definitely a challenge. I would have thought that the Power Valley would be different because I think your electricity, excuse me, is buried in a newer subdivision, but I'm not sure. But again, that is a Lexicon. We are shareholders in Lexicon, but that is not something that we control. That is a common problem across South Ajax. To the traffic, and I've spoken with Councillor Bauer quite a bit about this last week, and we share a few concerns about the traffic and about the U-turns of people heading south to try and beat the light, and of people going into Powers Valley to make those turns. And I have some questions to staff about some things that we could do on Pickering Beach in order to alleviate some of those, whether it be an extended median and a right-in, right-out, or some other forms, I don't know yet, but these are things that I think we could establish through site plan. But I have some questions myself for staff about that when we get to that portion of the meeting. And third was costs to planning. No, there aren't any costs to planning when things like this change. The proponent pays the fees in most cases. In this case, they've already paid the official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment fees, which we're dealing with today. Just so you know, the application right now is for 10 stories approved, and this change today would allow for 12, but the current zoning bylaw the current zoning bylaw allows for 11 stories. So we're really making a change of 1 story. But I think, and I wouldn't bring this forward if I didn't think it was important, there are a number of benefits that come with it. You're correct pointing out the parking, and we've done some things to the parking I'll talk about after, but I think there are some benefits that come with this as well to the town as a whole that we'll be discussing. I hope that answered your questions. Does any other member of the public wish to come forward and speak on this matter? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, is there anybody online?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Claudia Nembhard is online this morning. Claudia, if you'd like to press that button to activate your mic.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear me? Hi, I definitely see that you guys are trying to accommodate some. The major issue will always be the concern of the residents in the area, the safety of the residents. And
Just 1 second, Ms. Nemhart. I can't really hear. Is everybody else able to hear? Can we turn this up? Or maybe a little bit closer to your microphone, ma'am?
hi, guys. Can you hear me better? Can you hear me better?
Yes, that's better.
Yeah, the major issue would be the safety of the residents. And right now, consistently, the accidents continue. In fact, I just witnessed one in June and one 3 weeks ago. I'm sure most of you might have seen the video of the accident that occurred where the car caught in fire 3 weeks ago, right at that intersection. We're not taking into consideration the other 600 or so much more residents that's going to be living in that building. That is going to just increase significantly. If it's not a problem now, it will.
Claudia, we're hearing a lot of feedback. Would it be possible to try without the headphones? You'll have to reactivate your mic.
I can.
No, we're still getting a lot of feedback on your end.
Sorry, Ms. Nemhart, is your phone and your computer on? Because it can only be one.
Claudia, might I suggest perhaps... Oh,
Can you hear me now?
yes, that's
better.
much better.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. I had to take you off. I couldn't put it on my laptop; it wouldn't work, so I had to put it on my phone. As I was saying, the biggest issue for me is the safety of the resident with respect to the accidents. And I know that there's a camera that was installed, but it's not stopping the traffic as far as turning on our street and accident. Like June, I witnessed an accident. 3 weeks ago, there was a massive one where the car caught on fire right there at Bailey. It's just uptick. My concern is that an additional 600 or so residents, maybe half of them driving, it's not, to me, it's hard to see how it's going to get better. And for that, I think with the increase in the building units and traffic, I'm thinking, was there ever a consideration given, or is it possible to even consider a secondary entrance or exit on Bailey, you know, to feed both areas so it's not as congested?
Okay, is that the end of your delegation, ma'am?
Yes, that is.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask staff to answer the question regarding an alternate entrance, and I don't know whether that would be Mr. Romanowski or or Duval, Mr. Pandey. Who would be the one to answer that as far as an in-out, like a right-in, right-out on Bailey?
Well, I would refer to the planner on the file, Mr. Jeffrey, and Duval definitely could assist with a response to that. Bailey is a regional road, so there may be the same types of restrictions and conditions and separation requirements between the intersection, but I'll let these gentlemen address those questions.
Good morning.
Question, Ms. Nemhard. So I'll speak generally about the limitations of the site, and then Duval can jump in and go into more specifics. But the proximity of the development to the intersection of Pickering Beach Road and Bailey was the limitation in the site design as far as turning movements to create an entrance off of Bailey there, and then going down on Pickering Beach South. There was an initial design to have an entrance going off of Pickering Beach Road South, but this area is within the jurisdiction of the region of Durham, and they pushed back on an entrance in this area, also due to the kind of the queuing and the vicinity to the intersection.
Through the chair to chair, yes, I think the planner on the file provided enough information in terms of the proposed accesses. Ultimately, the access onto Bailey Street, it is under the jurisdiction of the region of Durham, and it is my understanding that region is not willing to accept any accesses on Bailey Street because of the functional area of the intersection of Salem and Bailey Street. So it is up to the region whether to accept the right-in, right-out access or full move access onto any regional road. We have no say on that one.
Okay, has the question been asked to the region? Have we asked them and they have said no?
Yes.
Okay. I can think of at least a dozen examples, and I'll just use Highway 2 and the Tim Hortons at Harwood on the southeast corner, for instance, with the driveway entering the Pioneer gas station and the Tim Hortons immediately closer than this would to that intersection, just for example. And those examples run all the way along that corridor. So is this something that we have any leverage to go back to the region to discuss? Because I share some of these concerns, and as I said, Councilor Bauer and I have discussed some of these concerns, and I mean, I'm not a traffic engineer, but I see one way to alleviate the one problem on Pickering Beach is a median and a right-in, right-out on the northbound lane, and then a right-in, right-out on the eastbound lanes of Bailey, potentially.
To the chair, we can definitely discuss this issue with the region of Durham, and let's see how they respond to our request.
Okay, and I have no problem at all being part of that discussion as well. It sometimes helps. So I would be happy to do that. I think that was the only question, was to do with the traffic. Was there any other questions? So thank you for that. Mr. Clerk, is there any other delegations online?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Rashid Rafiq is also online. So Rashid, if you press the button that looks like a head with lines emanating away from it, that should activate your microphone. Sorry, Rashid, if you could press that button one more time. Your microphone is now active and you should be able to address council. Sorry, Rashid, if you're speaking, we're not receiving any audio from you. Rashid, again, we're not receiving any audio on our end. Not sure if you've selected the correct audio device. Again, if you click that button, it should activate your microphone, but I think there may be an audio configuration issue on your end. Sorry, Rashid, we're still not receiving any audio. Mr. Mayor, it appears that we're having some technical difficulties. How would you like to proceed?
Well, is there any other members of the public wishing to speak to this?
No, Rashid was the last public delegate.
Before we do these, do we do a microphone check and everything with delegates before the meeting to make sure everything's working?
Yeah, unfortunately, Mr. Rafiq was a late addition, and we didn't have the opportunity to conduct a microphone check.
Is it possible for him to call in?
We don't have the capability to do a telephone bridge.
Okay. Well, I mean, we'll continue with the meeting. If he does come on before the decision's made, happy to hear from
Very well.
the delegate. So is there any other member of the public here that wishes to speak to this matter? Asking a second time, third and final time. Is the proponent online wishing to speak to this matter?
No, Mr. Mayor, they are not.
Okay. So I'm going to open it up to council. This is a bylaw. I will just remind everyone, we are speaking to the official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment. We're not speaking to the design of the building. I'm going to give lots of leeway on access and parking and that type of thing, because we've had a lot of concerns over that, and I want to sort of thoroughly vet those issues. Any member of public wish to speak to this? I see you, Councilor Lee, but I'm going to open it up to the local councillor first. Councillor Bauer. Oops, did I press the wrong button? Press your button again, Lisa. There you go.
Thank you, Mayor Collier. Thank you to the members of the public who came to address council. And also, I'll just remind council that there were an email package from other residents, and I hope that you were able to read them. And it does seem the main concerns continue to be the safety and traffic and infrastructure in that area. So I just wanted to confirm this bylaw not only talks about adding 56 units over 2 stories, It's also addressing some parking reductions. Is that correct? And could you explain that?
Absolutely, because I share some of these concerns with the residents. I do not take them lightly. I mean, sometimes we get concerns about view and that type of thing, which we can't really look at, but here, the parking and the traffic absolutely are valid and things that I do want to look at. I brought this forward, and just give me a second just to give some baseline data here. We all know that the economy has changed. We know that development has pretty much stopped in a lot of areas. And if you recall, I think I called this about 3 years ago when they were coming out with all the incentives for purpose-built rental. I said, I think we're going to see a lot of things converting to this, and that's what's happening. The condo market has dried up completely. The developer reached out to me because the business plan that made sense 3 years ago, when this was going through the planning process, in today's market or non-market of condo buyers, of high interest rates, of high cost of goods. I believe concrete has tripled in price. And we all know that the supply chain, obviously costs increased and the business plan didn't make sense anymore. So they approached me and said, look, in order to make this make sense, one, we have to convert it to a purpose-built rental building. And second, we need more economy of scale. We need those extra 50-odd units, or we won't be able to apply for CMHC financing. We won't get bank financing. So rather than see this sit as an empty field as it has for the last forever, I looked at that, and there's things in this bylaw that address those concerns. I've been on that street, and parking, I mean, I no disrespect, but the residents park on the street a lot as well. I visited a few times just to see for myself. And I mean, let's not point fingers. There's a lot of resident cars on the streets there and hanging out the end of the driveways. But in this, we have called for rideshare programming of, I don't know the exact number of spots, I think it was 15 spots that we talked about, which means recognizing that this is on a busy corner with major transit on both sides, that by having rideshare, which means a car that you can sign out without, you don't have to own it, you can sign it out and use it and come back, we're able to do some reductions in the number of parking spots. And we've done that across several developments even in the last 6 months, to allow for these things to go forward, and recognizing that we're giving provision so people don't have to have a car. There's group cars provided. So that was one thing. And then there's also the changes made, and I think it's Bill 185, where they've reduced maximum heights, or eliminated maximum heights, and reduced minimum parking requirements as a way to get more housing built. So we're caught a little bit in the provincial legislation. Again, we say no, it goes to the ONB, it ends up happening anyway. So I would rather deal with it here, where we control what happens, and put provisions in place. So the ride share was one of the items that's been added here. The second thing that I had added here was the affordability component, which is right now, in all of our other things that we've been making concessions on, we've been happy to get 5% affordable units. We're not absolutely sure what that is, percentage below market rent anyway. In this case, we're getting 10, which is significant. A 10% is a significant amount. And I felt that those couple of trade-offs were enough to get this to move ahead and to remedy some of those things, which parking is one. I've said a couple times today when you and I spoke about the access, and I think those are things, then I'll look for a nod from Mr. Romanowski, can be sorts of site plan. And I'm absolutely willing to go and twist some arms at the region as far as Bailey and see if there's a way to have an in-out there off of Bailey as well, even if it's got a lay-by lane that goes in, so it won't be queuing or whatever. And I think we can address those concerns through that. Did I answer your question? I think I answered your question.
Kind of. Thank you for all that information, and thank you for your willingness to try and find some solutions. So then can I request, or does that mean that this project, we won't get shovels in the ground until we get that traffic build sorted out? Or are we just going to hope that the region says yes and continue on anyway. I would prefer that we wait and get a solution that works because, yes, we are planning for the future, and that is very, very important. But we are also concerned, or should be concerned, about the 27 residences that currently exist in that little tiny cul-de-sac. And we are adding 255, I believe, new homes in there. That's the request. We've already added 199, and they're asking to add 56 more. And as far as the parking goes, the decrease, we already gave them that the first time around. And Regional Councillor Lee actually brought it up at the April 17th meeting that, you know, we have a concern, an overall concern across the town about not having, about making assumptions that people who live in rental apartments don't drive cars. And second, that we don't have enough spots. This is a problem across the town. So when I looked at what this new bylaw is proposing, we reduced from 1.5, this is for residents, 1.5 to 1.05 back in April. And for visitors, we reduced from 0.25 to 0.15 back in April. This time, we're requesting visitor parking down to 0.88, and that's resident parking to 0.88 spots per unit, and visitors down to 0.08. So I tried to do some math on this to see what that actually means. So for 255 units, we are saying 224 parking spaces are enough. And that's assuming that everybody has a car, or one car at least. And then, so hopefully 30 or so residents or apartments won't have a car. And if they do, well, too bad, so sad. They just got to go find somewhere else to park, I guess. And then for the visitors, it's even more so, where we are dropping it down to, I think, a total of, it worked out to one visitor spot for roughly every 12 and a half, so let's round up, 13 visitors who come. So we have 255 apartments, and hopefully no one has visitors on the same day, or only 13 of them have one visitor with a car, because otherwise, where are they gonna park? So to say there's 15 rideshare spots is lovely, and of course we want to come up with solutions to help because we are pushing for more transportation modes than just vehicles, but we aren't there yet. And we're putting up this tower, and we're taking away even more. And I don't think that's fair to the residents who are living there. I certainly don't think it's fair to all the other neighborhoods surrounding that cul-de-sac. Regardless, fairness doesn't always come into play. The other thing we talked about the affordable housing, and we need housing, we were in a housing crisis. That came up at the last meeting as well, and that was Mayor Collier who talked about we cannot say, yes, we have a crisis, and yes, we need to build, and then don't allow it, because then that makes us hypocrites. But I counter, we did our duty back in April of last year. The developer came to us and said, here's what we want, we need your approval, and we need more housing, and we need less parking. So as a council, it passed, it was unanimously passed. And we said, okay, we understand that, we are doing our diligence for the planning of our town. But now they're coming back and asking for more, and the resident was right about we gave them something, and they came back, and it was fine. And I talked to the Powers Valley residents. I went there afterwards, and we talked about it. And it did come up about, are they gonna want more? And I told them that, well, there's no way they could want more. There's nowhere to put the cars. There's nowhere to do this. It couldn't happen. But here they come. I was as shocked as the residents on that street to find out that they want to add 2 more floors. I'd love to know, because we did get a breakdown last year of the breakdown of what these units would look like. I would love to know what they're proposing now. And so I guess you did give me some information, and I'm very appreciative of that. But I don't want that to be, well, we tried at the meeting, they said no, we're just gonna let them go ahead. I'd like to see that this project wait until we do come up with a solution that helps them, because then that proves that we really are concerned about their issues. Anyway, that was something that I wanted to make sure I said. I did also have a question about the increase, because I think 56 units, so the potential of 56 or more or less, more cars, would cause, that's significant in my opinion, especially in that area. So I just wanted to ask maybe staff, how is a traffic study performed? Is that based on just existing traffic, or does that mean you take this new project and put that into the comparisons as well? And if that's the way, then should we not ask for a new traffic study, considering there's going to be that many more units?
Mr. Romanowski?
Yeah, if I may,
I
through the
believe
chair.
it will have to be updated as part of the site plan based on the new project, would it?
Definitely. So there'd be first of all, and Deval, please jump in if I'm misrepresenting or missaying something, but with the increased units, you'd have to do an addendum to the already submitted traffic impact study. That study would definitely take in consideration like existing traffic conditions, any background traffic, so other developments in the area that would be coming online in kind of the window of when this development would be coming online. And use that data. The data they use is from the region, so they get the updated data from the region's modeling. AM and PM peak periods are what's predominantly kind of the metric that's used when conducting a traffic impact study, as we use those as the high times in the morning and at night when we expect the most, I guess, movements in the area and the highest volumes because of commuter times. And Deval could speak to this more eloquently as a professional traffic engineer, but I think the small increase, like the moderate increase in units will have really negligible impact on the traffic study, I would imagine. I'm sure we might get an increase of maybe 1 or 2 more turn movements, or maybe 5, depending on, an anomaly with the traffic, especially in our kind of Durham east-west kind of commuting pattern. But I can, Deval, if there's anything else that you want to add to the Councillor Bauer's question.
Through the chair to Councillor Bauer, I think what Jeff described is correct. In terms of, given the proposed land use, in terms of the estimate of number of trips for the proposed development, I think the increase of 50 units, I'm taking it like an arbitrary number, but 50 units may increase 20 trips at the most.
Okay, thank you for that information. But I will also comment that at the last meeting, it was acknowledged by town staff that that intersection is already a very high traffic problem section. So I don't want it dismissed that 56 extra units will only add possibly this many cars, when we have acknowledged that it's a nightmare at that section already. So I want to make that statement, because we know that's a problem, and we're adding just a little bit, maybe, depending on this new traffic study, which means it just makes a bad problem more bad. So thank you for that information. I appreciate that. I did want to comment, and I don't know, Mayor Collier, if we're able to get that breakdown, because we were given 8 3-bedroom units, 64 2-bedroom units, 118 one-bedrooms, and 9 studios. So is that what will the footprint of that plan, does any of the existing design presented to us, do we expect that to change significantly with the addition of these 2 extra floors?
I wouldn't expect it to change significantly, but we're not dealing with that today. That's going to
Fair
be
enough.
things that are brought through site plan. and through the design of the building. This is just zoning bylaw and official plan amendment.
Fair enough. So my other question then, do we have to approve both items, both changes being presented in this bylaw?
I was going to speak to your first question, which is this, the timing. And again, why are we here on August, what's the date, 13th? During summer break, because of the urgency. And the urgency is to do with the CMHC application, which is gonna take some time. So, but they needed this in place before that can go ahead. If we wanna get shovels in the ground probably in the spring, that's why this is here today. So I don't think we can. I believe they have to be done at the same time. But I can say that this is already an approved site plan, but in order to go back through and reapprove through the site plan process is, I think, gonna take probably, what, Jeff, 6 months?
Through the chair to the chair for revisions to this?
Yeah.
Yeah. At the most, maybe. It depends on how they're changing the building and what's changing. But if we're just adding stories, which is 2 stories, I don't imagine the footprint or the ground floor layout or anything like that's going to change. So that would be at the longest end of the
Where I'm
timeline.
going is there's time to ask these questions of the region,
100
to look at the
100%.
different,
We're going to get on that
traffic study updated.
for sure. Yeah. We'll be communicating with the region and
And
investigating
concurrently,
that.
they'll go through the financing exercise as well. What I'm trying to avoid and what I think we're gonna see, and I know the residents that reached out don't like this, and we deal with this every time we have an infill project. I've been here I'm at the end of my 21st year. I mean, I've never had one come forward where the local residents don't support or support the development. They just don't, because it's your home, it's your biggest asset, it's very personal to you, and I absolutely understand. But residents have to understand, if we'd had that attitude, 10 years ago? I don't know how old these houses were. These houses wouldn't be here. And same with all the other houses before that. So we can't look at things on a one-off basis. We have to look at what's in the official plan. And this is allowed in the official plan, up to 11 stories. We're adding a story. I'm just trying to keep things moving along. I know the residents would want it to not happen. I think 6 months on the outside is more than enough time to go back and look at these issues that we've said, and we do control that process of site plan, staff do. And I know they'll take our recommendations with regards to parking is a tough one, because again, it's $60,000 a spot, that's today's cost. And if for me to say, add another floor of underground parking, they would need to be adding probably 7 or 8 more stories to this building, right? So it's a bit of an ebb and flow, but for the timing part, I think they do have to be done today, because this application for financing does have to go in. Otherwise, this project potentially goes away and we're left with no new units and no affordable units.
Thank you, Mayor Collier. And with great respect, we already approved a change for them that the residents did not want. And this street, 27 residents, so that's not a lot of people. That open house had almost 40 attendees last year. Multiple emails, multiple phone calls. They came to the meeting to delegate. So this is an engaged community. And maybe there's always a little bit of not in my backyard, of NIMBY in every project. I understand that. I live here too. So I get that. I take a little bit of offense on behalf of the residents, because we have already approved amendments and changes to this area, and they accepted it. They didn't want to, and I met with them, and I told them I would help them deal with it, for lack of a better term. So to come back with a second time, we cannot use that same excuse that nobody wants it, that it's NIMBY, that this is the way development and progress happens. No, unfair, because we've already done that. So I don't accept that argument, with great respect to you, Mayor Collier. So then, just a couple more questions. CMHC application, what's the real firm deadline on that? And if we approve this and then go through all of this negotiation, why can't we go through the negotiation and get those deals made before we approve it? Because once we pass it, there's that safety net of, well, we'll try our best, but if it doesn't work, too bad, so sad. Again, I'll use that phrase. Where if there's negotiation that happens, that we can get a solution, because we really want to make everybody happy, the future residents and our existing residents, and the developer and the town. So why can't we take that 6 months then and get that deal made first?
Okay, and I'm gonna have to stop you.
Thank you.
at
I
this one,
appreciate
'cause
the time that you've allowed me.
I've been trying to,
Yep, way
not-
more than my 5, and I appreciate that.
But I will try and answer your questions. First, and again, with all respect,
Yep.
it doesn't matter what we bring to the table. The residents of Power Valley Court are not going to be happy with this development. Period. Okay? That, I'm sorry, is just a fact. We're adding 1 floor, and we've heard from our traffic engineers that could be 20 trips a day. These are not staggering numbers. To the timing, it's a bit of a catch-22. My understanding of how CMHC works, they need to have this in place before they'll consider the application. So, again, nothing's getting cheaper over time. Everything just keeps getting more expensive over time. If this project had gone ahead 3 years ago, it would be built, people would be living there, it'd be, and it would have been a fraction of the cost, but that didn't happen. This is where we are today. And I'm just trying to deal with it and keep it going, because I don't believe that if this doesn't pass, there's gonna be anything there. Which that is about the only decision that could happen today that would make the residents happy, I think. It's unfortunate, but it is the situation we're in. The official plan does allow this to go ahead at 11 stories.
But they're asking for 12.
They're asking for 12. I felt it was a reasonable ask. I don't see, and I'm just going by history and experience in probably 100 of these in the past, that these problems that people hypothesize and think are going to happen don't actually happen. That's fact also. And I think I said that last at the region when we were talking about something to do with, 1635 Dundas, the homeless shelter, or the social services building in Whitby. They just don't happen for the most part. So, I mean, I can go down my street, you can go down your street. There's cars hanging out the back, like this far into the street, all the way up the street. It's just, parking is a problem across Ajax. Yeah, it is.
It is.
And it's not something this council is going to solve, because
We have the opportunity to mitigate it here before they build.
But we can, well, not really, because we're gonna have this whether it's 11 stories or 12 stories. What I do want to do is, through the site plan process, get things put in place to try and alleviate this. Deal with the right-ins, right-outs, or the U-turns, and see if we can solve that problem. Because that intersection is probably the 2nd or 3rd highest volume collision intersection in the region.
Yep.
The highest one is just up the street at Highway 2 in Salem. And that's why the region has red light cameras at some of these locations. We can do that through site plan. Looking at putting, I don't know, wording in the rental agreements where people know what the parkings are. I mean, these are things we've done before through agreements of purchase and sale. True, it only works for the original purchaser in an agreement of purchase and sale unless it's on title. But these are some things we can do. Again, what I'm trying to avoid is either a nothing or this going to the Ontario Land Tribunal and taking the decision-making out of our hands. And if that happens, we could end up with 12 stories based on Bill 185 changes that the provincial government has made, no affordable component, no ride-sharing component, none of these other sort of things that we've been able to work in through the negotiation. And that's a very real issue as well. So I don't think I need to speak at a name more about that. I think I answered your question about the timing for CMHC.
Yes, you did. Thank you. Will we have the opportunity to see the site plan? I already know the answer.
The answer, Bill 109 says no. Again, provincial legislation has taken site plan approval out of our hands and delegated it to staff,
Right, okay.
was unfortunate, because prior to that, we could.
Yes. And similar to the Finley Burden project from first term of council, there was a contact person that the residents could call, I believe through the developer itself, not through town, so that they could, if they had questions or comments or concerns about the site work, that they could reach a live person. I did tell the residents that I would ask for that, and I would really appreciate if we could set that up.
I'm going to say yes,
Great.
because I will speak to them personally and make sure that that is something that is done.
Okay. I am not in favor of these bylaws today, will not be supporting them. I have voiced for myself and for the people who live there. And I just think, CMH, like, if that developer really wants something there and wants to make the money of something there, then we can negotiate to do all the right things. And if that takes 6 months or longer, then I think that we should take that time, because once it's there, it's there. So I do not want to participate in adding that kind of problem in that area. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Councillor Lee.
Good morning, Chair, and thank you for the ability to speak. First, I'd like to point out I appreciate that this was important enough for the proponent not to show up, to even deign to show up to directly answer our questions. So that's really appreciated. And to a degree, it's absurd that the mayor is the one defending these proposals. Like you're not building this. So it's absurd that you have to defend this. So thank you very much. First question is to clerks. This is mayor's directive, so the voting's a bit different on this. In order to hypothetically override, correct me if I'm wrong, we need 5 members of council to override, correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. So,
and that doesn't
yeah,
factor in an absence.
correct. So Part 6 of the Municipal Act, which is commonly referred to as strong mayor powers, it outlines that a 1/3 vote for total members of council is required. It does not take into account who is present at the meeting.
Okay, so really, yeah, I think this is somewhat of a foregone conclusion, but I will list my objections, and my objections actually aren't really resident focused. I think Councillor Bauer did a fantastic job with that. It's the process of this development. So I want to clarify, we are adding 2 floors. We keep saying we're adding 1 floor, but it was previously approved for 10, was it not? I know the theoretical is 11, but we actually approved.
In the report, it's, in the bylaw, it's 11.
Sorry, I was reading an email, incorrect, that's on me. Okay, so we're adding 1 floor, that's fair. My question to the mayor, and you can answer when I'm done, because I want to make sure I maximize my 5 minutes. Will zoning revert in the event of a sale? So if they hypothetically use this new zoning to leverage it into a sale of the property, I just want to make sure we have the ability to revert these new zoning bylaws. You alluded, Chair, to comments you made a few years ago saying you saw this coming, that, rentals were on the way. But I would swear on a stack of Bibles, you also specifically said your vision for Ajax was more condos, less rentals. You didn't want more rentals, yet here we are. So I'm kind of wondering why that changed. And you're going to say, well, the market for condos had changed, and we're seeing it every newspaper article under the sun. But I'm wondering, why is that our responsibility? As a council, our responsibility is not the profitability of these developers. It is the best interest of our residents. And right now, we should let the free market decide whether this condo works or not. And maybe they shouldn't be building shoe boxes at 600,000 and, create things that people actually want to buy and let the market sort itself out. But right now, it seems like every time this happens, and this was only a year ago, so all of a sudden in 1 year, they decided their math was all wrong and they wanted to go back to the drawing board. And to your point, Chair, their asks aren't overly unreasonable. But again, it's the process where it's like, it is not our responsibility to ensure your company is profitable. Sell it to someone who can make this work. And that's how I see it. You mentioned that these problems just don't happen. And I agree to a degree. We've seen many developments go up where the apocalypse did not happen, but all these solutions you and the developer are bringing up also don't just happen. This rideshare theoretical, you're hoping that Uber, Lyft, I think that's it, will continue to mitigate their costs, which they haven't. Uber and Lyft shares or ride prices have gone up probably 20, 30% over the last decade. They're going to continue to go up by the time this is built. And we don't even know if they'll still be around come the time this is built. So we're hoping. And if we're not hoping for that, we're hoping for a market solution to fill that gap. But there's no guarantee of that. And right now we're hoping, because if there isn't, our job is kind of paint the worst case scenario. If there isn't, then they're up a creek without a paddle. I don't understand where people are supposed to park, back to Councillor Power's point. So I don't think this ride share is a silver bullet. And quite frankly, this process always comes back to us and you always say the same thing. Well, if we don't approve it now, it's going to go to OLT and the processes of our, ad nauseum. You keep going through the same thing. And we kind of keep balking at the threat, being well, it's true. But it's I don't know. I'm not sure it would always get to that point. I think to a degree, maybe the developer would go back to the drawing board rather than spend thousands on lawyer fees, which apparently they don't have after a year because they can't make the finances work. So again, I just want to stress to council, I don't have any huge reservations with these amendments, but the process is messed because we're going to continue to have meetings like this. We're going to continue being, they couldn't get the math to work on their initial one. We need to go back to the drawing board, higher, bigger, faster, stronger. But at what point does the developer look into themselves and say, hey, maybe I shouldn't be in this business because I can't get this math to work? Because right now shoeboxes don't work. And that is what all the articles we're reading. There's no market for these 500, 400 square foot shoeboxes, which absolutely maximizes the developer cost, and maximizes their profits, but in no way benefits the residents or the buyers, or in this case, the renters. So I don't think I can support this. And again, Chair, I think you're doing a great job defending the proponent, but the fact that they didn't even show up to answer these questions and you're kind of going up to bat for them is absolutely absurd to me. So thank you, Chair.
Did you want me to try and answer any of those?
Yeah, I want to make sure I got my 5 minutes.
Oh, I've been watching that, but obviously I wasn't enforcing it, especially for the local councillor for the area, because I wanted them to have your 25 minutes. I don't look at me as much defending as just stating the facts of why I brought this to the table. I don't get involved in the only thing that I am aware of is the CMHC process for this. And the reason why is because I'm hearing it from most of the developers now. If it was up to me, the federal government would just force CMHC financing, just make it automatic for everything if they really wanted to do something about housing, but they're not. It's still a very long, protracted, and expensive process. I think it's something like in the neighborhood of $60,000 to do the application for CMHC. I'm just trying to keep things moving. Let's go back to 2018 when we all, except for Councillor Henry, started here and had these great ideas of all this development, and we all ran on economic development for the most part and everything else. And the first 4 years, we did well, and there was a lot of commercial development. But think about, I can't think of one residential development in 6 years that's going, other than the Medallion, which was started long, long, long before. Not one. We still haven't unlocked the sewage capacity in our downtown core to allow things to go ahead. Not one. We've got 5 MZO requests that are in their 20th month at the province waiting for an approval, which to me I thought was a rubber stamp, like a no-brainer. Approved concept plans supported by council 3 times, and part of the regional official plan, which has been a 6-year process, and by the way, has been sitting on the minister's desk since May last year, which is another 15 months. So, I mean, in 6 years, and we know I have 2 years left, in 8 years, we could be sitting here based on this and still have 0 shovels in the ground for anything. And it's not our fault, that's based on market conditions. So maybe I keep saying the same thing again and again because it's true. And that's just the answer. Because it is true. And if this doesn't pass today, it might not, it will end up at the OLT, and that building will probably be there. I can't speak to their finances. I hadn't thought about what if they sell the building. I mean, I guess we could change this as easily as we could change it now back to what it was, if that's the case. But again, that's, I don't think the way we should be looking at these things. So, did I answer your question? Okay. Next, Councillor Crawford.
Thank you, Your Worship. CMHC is extremely irritating in my thinking. Is that the proponent?
Yes.
Okay. They can't even count. They drove through our town. They didn't count what they gave money for, and we are out $4 million. So I find their whole concept is ridiculous. I know that we signed a pledge, I believe, at the beginning of this term, and you know, we all willingly said that there's a housing crisis and that we needed to do something. So we willingly signed this pledge, but more and more it feels more like a noose around our neck. And every time a developer decides to change their mind for a condo to a rental to a floors to this to that, it's like the noose just tightens around your neck and you can't say no because you signed this pledge. And yet we're not made whole. None of us have been made whole yet by this government. And so I feel like this is just another example of that noose tightening. And, you know, I understand that residents are having a hard time with development in the area. But to be truthful, all Ajax knows is traffic. That's all we know. We don't know car sharing. We don't know anything. We don't have proper transit, and like we're trying to get it back, but you know, we don't have what the TTC has. And so for us to continue to agree to less parking based on the fact that people don't have cars in apartments is very hard concept to grasp when we don't have a development yet that has proved that that's the reality. And so I feel like everybody is feeling the same thing. Like when people say, well, you know, they're not gonna drive, we go, like everybody drives, what are you talking about, right? So it's hard to understand that concept. My understanding was initially the region had agreed to make a turning lane on Bailey. Okay, let me get my directions right. Going westbound into the development or into that street, eastbound. And when they looked at it again, they originally said yes, that could happen. And when they looked at it again, there's a curve in the road that they said no, we can't do that. And I think that it doesn't just affect the people in the area for traffic, it affects everybody, because if that road becomes full of cars or there's a danger point on it, residents will find another way to get where they're going. So it will impact a larger area just because people find the path of least resistance. And so I feel like that whole road thing needs to be figured out sooner than later. Bailey needs to be looked at. And maybe this is a question to Deval, and I'll let you figure that out. But I thought Bailey was scheduled for widening. I seem to remember hearing something about that. And it's like a full, long widening. So anyway, that would be one of my questions right there.
Are you finished speaking to that?
I really, no, can I just keep going?
Ask your questions
Okay.
first.
Some of it is just statements, and I know you don't like that, but I did get a question in there. Do we inform Lexicon of any developments that are happening? I think the infrastructure is in such horrible shape that, you know, if somebody sneezes in South Ajax, the power goes out. So we need to figure that out, like we really do. And maybe this is a question that I'm not sure, you'll tell me if I can answer, if this is not something to ask, but are police invited to do like is it SEPTED? SEPTED on developments that come in?
No.
And if not, why? And
Because they're busy.
Well, they're going to be busier if they're not safe, and they can't if they can't patrol them. Yeah, I think that's it. I think those are my questions.
Okay, Mr. Pena, can you speak to the future plans for Bailey, please? The ultimate width and what the region has planned?
Through the chair to Regional Councillor Crawford, as per the region's current capital budget and 9-year forecast, Bailey Street is anticipated to be widened in the year 2029 to 2033.
And just to clarify, the turn movement that you were referring to was a southbound movement through the intersection with I guess, an eastbound turning slip lane, but as Deval had already mentioned, because it was in the functional area of the intersection, it's not able to be accommodated.
And someone that's driven that a few times recently, it's very dangerous, potentially crossing the two lanes. Going in is not bad, coming out, turning left is the tricky one. Thank you, Deval. The other thing, Councillor Crawford, you brought up was and I'm glad you did, CMHC and their counting capability, because that has affected us in a big way, and you're right with this pledge. And again, we didn't reach our targets this year because of somebody else's ineptitude, and I'll do my best to try and fix that. We're working on that. And Big City Mayors are working on that. But nobody's going to get their BFF funding this year. Nobody. Nobody's going to reach their targets from what I've seen and speaking to other mayors. That's the situation we're in. It's dried up. Everything is dried up because of the economic situation. I see the proponent has joined us, and we do have some questions that I'm hoping you would be able to answer, but I do have some other councillors wishing to speak. I'll ask you, were your questions, would they be to the proponent, or just that did you have general questions about the zoning bylaw and official plan amendment? My questions to staff. Okay, so go ahead, Councillor Henry.
Thank you. I'm going to offer some information and ask some questions. So I did read the emails that came in that Councillor Bauer had submitted, and went through them all and started to look at some of the concerns. From January to August of 2023, there was a total of 11 tickets that were given on Power Valley Drive. From January to August 2024, there have been 5 tickets given. So it's a difference, and it's gone down for the area residents, but I do understand the concern for the development and what that will look like and the parking of the area. I also looked at the complaint about the traffic accidents in the area, in the intersection, and I reached out to Durham Regional Police. So last year at this time, there was 25 accidents there. To date, this year, 16. And Durham Regional Police have offered some information that they've been doing some activity in that area to help mitigate that. It's obviously working, kudos to them. Now, question-wise, the CMHC process. The question would be, I guess, to the planning department is which units of the 10% are going to be affordable? Because my understanding from Council Bauer's statements is that, and we know this from the first meeting, is that there were so many, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, so many units. Are the new units that could be smaller going to be the ones that are offered as affordability in the 10%? Do we know that?
Through the chair to Councillor Henry, I defer to the applicant. I'm not aware of the specifics of the CMHC application and whether or not it stipulates certain size of units, et cetera. So I think that might be best answered by the proponent as they're more involved in that process.
Okay, so I'll leave that question for when they come up. I am happy to hear the mayor say, write in and write out as a way of mitigating the traffic issue and perhaps an extension of the medium along Pickering Beach Road. Looking at that area, I can see where the traffic concerns are. And I've heard from some residents in South Ajax that have reached out to me about this. When we go past, so right now we're currently looking at 11 stories, and we're going to push it to 12 if this goes through today. Does that now move the applicant and this development into the higher stage of density allowance? Is that 12 to 15 the next block of density allowance? Could someone answer that for me?
Through the chair to Councillor Henry, I don't believe it changes the density. It's still within. Sean, do you want to verify? Is it medium density or is it in the high density designate, like range?
Chair to you, Councillor Henry. So the lands are already designated high density residential. This official plan amendment that is being proposed today is seeking to increase the density permission per hectare, but this development is already in kind of the highest tier of development permissions.
So let me rephrase something. If we push this to 12, if we say yes to this today, can the applicant come back and ask for more? Is there a higher density they could go to?
They've already, through the chair to Councillor Henry, they're at the highest.
That's it.
The density calculation is a product of the number of units on the land,
Not the height of the building?
not the height of the building.
Okay, thank you for that. And minor variance. Can the applicant come back to us at a future date, not through this process, but through another process, and ask for a minor variance with regards to decreasing or increasing parking?
Through the chair to you, Councillor Henry, yes, the applicant does have the opportunity to seek a minor variance for any of the development standards that are regulated by the zoning bylaw.
And that could be a decrease as well at that time?
They would not need a variance to decrease the unit count or sorry, for the parking rate.
Parking.
That could be sought through a variance, yes, but I mean, the planning staff would take the public's comments into consideration when writing a staff report and providing that to the Committee of Adjustment.
Yeah, and through the chair to Councillor Henry, just to clarify, because the way you asked the question was a little confusing. So any deviation from a performance standard would require a variance. So if they're lowering the rate, yes. If they're increasing the number of parking spaces above the minimum, they wouldn't need a variance. They'd be meeting the minimum. So
That never happens, though. We never have anyone come back that wants to increase parking.
We don't know.
I'm just speaking to your example.
Got it. Understood. Okay, thank you for that. Those are my questions for now.
Okay. That exhausts the speaker list for council. I do see, and I'll give Mr. Rafiq an opportunity to come back in. I'm sorry, Ms. Nemhard has spoken. Is he available? If you'd like to come back in, and then we'll open it up to the proponent for questions.
Mr. Rafiq, I've activated your mic and you, just clicked it off. You should have 5 minutes. So again, Mr. Rafiq, your microphone is active. However, we're not hearing any audio on our end. Mr. Rafiq, again, not receiving any audio. Mr. Mayor, it appears that there's a technical issue on the delegates' end.
Okay, well, unfortunately, we're going to have to move on. I see the proponent is here, and there has been several questions, so I would ask that you would come forward, please, and answer. Please sign in, state your name, and answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and council members. Thank you for attending this special council meeting. So I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, we did have a number of questions. Councillor Henry, you had a question to the proponent, please.
Thank you, yes. Through the mayor. So I wanted to know with the new units that being, well, let me word it this way. CMHC process, will this process dictate, or will you be dictating, which units are the affordable units of the 10% that will be offered? And will they be the smaller of the units?
There is no requirement for the size of the unit, number of bedrooms to be affordable right now at CMHC level.
So then can I ask what your plan is, what you're offering as the 10%?
We don't have a plan right now. We just want to get this project started. So we're scrambling to put the documentation together. They asked for a stack of documents, personal guarantees from all the owners of the project, and we just want to get this project on the way.
So then respectfully, you could be offering the smallest of units you are building in this development as the 10% affordable units.
So
There's no commitment to us about that, correct?
what is your ask?
My ask is, are you going to be giving the smallest of the units as the affordable units?
The way the CMHC works right now, there is one number for the rent. So I don't know if it's fair to everybody else to give a guy $1,350 a month rent, give him a 3-bedroom. I don't know if it's fair to everybody else. I don't know.
Well, I know that there are rental units through Durham Region for geared to rent affordable housing, that it does work that way because we do have families that
Okay.
need this type of housing.
So-
So are you saying that, I just want to be clear, are you offering the smallest of units at the 10%?
We can offer like 1-bedrooms as a starting for affordability. If there is different range of rental income or rental prices, we can offer a larger unit to a larger family that needs an affordable unit, yes.
You can, but there's no commitment to that through this process.
Do you want us to commit to something?
I-
What is the
Yes, I
regional-
would.
What is-
I would imagine that question would go to the local counselor, but yes,
Yeah.
I would.
So,
Henry, why don't we bring an amendment under bylaws that the 12 affordable units be a combination of all different, like an equal distribution of 1, 2, 3 bedroom?
I'm good with that. I defer to my colleague on that.
I've noted that. I think that's the 10%, right? What is 10% of? Oh, sorry, okay. I don't know what I'm thinking. Go ahead.
That was my question. Thank you.
Okay. Further? Councilor Bauer.
Thank you, Mayor Collier. Thank you for coming this morning. So at the meeting last April, you did provide us the breakdown of units.
yes.
9 studio, 118 1-bedroom, 64 2-bedroom, and 8 3-bedroom. The addition of the 56 units, do you expect, do you know yet what those will be comprised of?
Yes, it's on the site plan drawing that I provided to the planning.
Okay, are you able to tell me?
I have to look at. So we don't have any bachelor units. They're all one bedroom, starting from 540 square feet. These are much larger than what you would see in the city of Toronto. And we have, actually, this is giving me per floor. Just give me 1 second.
Sure.
Okay, here. We have 109 units, one bedroom, 142 two bedrooms. And we have 8 three bedrooms.
Okay, so you've removed the bachelors.
I'm sorry?
You
Yeah.
have taken the studios
Yes.
out, and it's 1, 2, and
Yes.
3 bedrooms. Thank you. So, thank you for that. Now, I noticed that you have also asked for further reduction in parking. So, I would like to understand your rationale for why you are adding that many more units. Why would you then, and I know it, well, why do you think it's a good idea to reduce the parking?
Because we know what the trend is in the market. We know what the goals of the cities are to promote public transit. Because if we invest billions of dollars in public transit and everybody still takes their cars, so what's the point of spending that money? Like, it doesn't make sense. Just to have an elaborate GO Transit and subways, but nobody's riding it, or BRTs that have buses going empty back and forth. So the way it starts is by taking cars off the street. And I'm sure people who come to rent or purchase a unit, they know what they're getting into. If we say at the beginning that there's parking for certain sizes, and if you knowingly know the cost of having a parking and affording a car, then like you're asking me to put affordable units, so how can this person afford to have a car? This is the mentality that, the thought process that brings us all together. And that's why, based on our experience and provincial initiatives and aiming at reducing parking on the streets, parking lots and whatnot, this is what we feel is going to work.
Right. So the initial reduction in parking, what you're saying is not enough, because we already reduced parking for you last April.
Yes, we did, because the zoning bylaw that we're working with is 2014, and since 10 years ago, lots have changed
Right.
throughout GTA. So I think we just brought it to what everybody else's standard was 4 years ago.
Right.
City of Toronto parking standard is 0 right now. Whether you're close to a subway or close to a GO station, doesn't matter. Anywhere you in the city, you're allowed to have 0 parking. So I don't see many developments providing 0, but they do provide a minimum that they feel is a number that's going to work for them
Okay.
and for the project.
Thank you. So I know during our discussions today, I'm not sure if you were here at that time, there was lots of concern that if this bylaw was passed today or wasn't passed today, that would really impact your CMHC application and your overall desire
That's
to
correct.
build here.
Yes.
So the concern was if we don't pass it today, that you're going to walk away. Is that true?
Well, again, it's all economics. Like, we can't be sitting here paying taxes on the land and exuberant interest rate mortgages, interest only, and the money's, we're doing this as a business, right?
Right.
Unfortunately, this is the business I got into 25 years ago, and I don't know anything else. If I could, make apps and make billions, it would be nice, but this is what we know. And this is the profession we're in, and we have to make the project work. And I know there's always a planning rationale, but what we fail to look at is the economy and economics of the project has to turn a profit. If you go to a bank with your pro forma and you're not showing 12% profit, you're not going to get a loan. So if this doesn't work, we're going to have to put it in the market, and hopefully somebody will buy it. And maybe they can bring it to success at some point. And I don't know, like, at this time of year, you would see maybe 50 to 100 high-density, high-rise projects launched. So far, from January of this year till now, maybe launched 5, because nobody can make the numbers work. There's no market. And the only way we thought we could save this project is to turn it into a rental. And even that, we don't know in 4 years, when this is built, finished, is gonna get the same rental estimates that we're doing right now, same interest rates and all that. So we're taking a huge risk.
Right.
And if this is gonna contravene our livelihood, we just say goodbye.
Okay. So if and when construction starts, that's a very small street and very busy surrounding area. Where will your working trucks and employees, where do you anticipate they will park?
We have designated a corner. We provided the city staff with a construction management plan that shows where we've got designated parking for trades.
Okay.
And that's where they would park. And trades, I've got used to it because working downtown, a lot of them do carpool. A lot of them, are used to not having parking readily available.
Right.
So we will manage that.
Okay, and I had also mentioned about having a contact person on site that will be available for residents to reach out to.
Of course.
With any concerns or comments or questions.
Of course.
So that will happen?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a full-time, usually we have a full-time super and assistant super as a minimum. That'll be there every day. We also have project coordinators, project managers to run the day-to-day operations from the site and outside the site, so.
Okay, and I'm sure you'll do your best to remember, or your workers will remember, it's a residential area.
Of course, yes.
So to treat it as such and
Yeah.
not just a construction site.
No, we have to treat the neighborhood with respect because I know we're gonna create some nuisances at some points, but that's what it takes to build something new, I guess.
Right, okay. So this, thank you for those answers. I don't know if I should ask the proponent this or the mayor, but this type of application would regularly have come forward in 3 weeks at our scheduled CAP meeting, which is outside of summer recess. Right now, we are on summer
No, I
recess, and
appreciate
all councilors are not able to attend everything, and deservedly so. We are on vacation, so I'm just curious as to the urgency of 3 weeks, because it sounds like even if this does pass today, not all the necessary approvals and paperworks and applications, et cetera, would be completed in 3 weeks, and shovels, I'm sure, would not be in the ground in 3 weeks. So I'm curious as to why it had to be pushed, why it had to be a special scheduled meeting. I don't know if you can answer that, sir, or if that should be the mayor.
I don't know, I mean, everything's urgent for us. I'm paying $50,000 a month.
Right.
So just carrying this land. And then the application process 3 months ago was about 3 months, now it's 6 months. So the more we wait, the longer it will take for the approval process, and we won't see shovels in the ground, so.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Those are my questions.
I don't see anyone else on the speaker list, so I just have a couple, sir, about, and some of these stem from some of the resident concerns. I didn't realize the 3-bedroom units were such a low count, so by having all units equal, I don't think will work. I think we'll have to massage that a little bit, but I'm gonna be bringing a motion or Councillor Henry perhaps will bring a motion to amend the bylaw to say that the affordable units are going to be a mix. You don't have a problem with that?
No, it's fine.
Okay. You've been asked, are you actually going to build the project? Assuming this passed today, what is the timeline for actual shovels in the ground?
We were hoping to go this year, but looks like, I don't know. Our hope is to go this year, get started with at least excavation and shoring. We are going to put the building permit application in October, mid-October, And if we can get anything done this year, we will, but if not, it will be in the new year, early new year.
One of the questions you were asked, or you mentioned in one of your answers, was that, you know, if you can't make the numbers work, then maybe you put it on the market and maybe somebody else can. When I bring these forward as mayor's directives, I always are very clear that if this goes on the market, this directive goes away.
Yeah.
Okay, so just want to reiterate that. That's my intention, and that's generally the wording that I put in to the zoning bylaw.
I appreciate that, yes.
So that is clear. Okay. I want to talk about traffic, because traffic is the thing we probably heard the most of. And just to clarify, Councilor Lee, ride sharing wasn't Uber and Lyft. Ride share was on-site, specific, dedicated, preferably electric, and I would prefer, but cars on-site that people can sign out, not a ride share program. That's just to clarify. But for traffic, access of the property I see as a problem, having visited a few times. We are going to be reaching out to the region to discuss potential in-out on Bailey. And a median on Pickering Beach, so people can't left turn across or come out, but would have to be a right in, right out, and a right in, right out on the both of them. Can you give me your thoughts on that? Because ultimately, if the region says yes to that on Bailey, that will become your cost
To right in, right out?
for the extra access point.
I don't think right in, right out would work for us. So how do you, coming southbound east, turn left to the site? Is that where you imagine?
Again, I'm not a traffic engineer. These are things we've been talking about.
Right in, right out doesn't work. I
So-
think, sorry to interrupt, we looked at adding the turning lane to make it easier for stoppages and the lane configuration on the southbound. And according to our traffic consultants, it works. It's just that maybe we have to have a meeting with the regional staff and city staff and our consultant and hash it through, because I know people don't like change. If this is the standard that was established 30 years ago, that's it. But they have to look at it with open mind, like we always do.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm just letting you know, that is one of the things that we are going to be looking to bring
We can
forward
look at
as
it
part
in
of the
detail,
site plan
yeah.
process.
For sure.
I didn't have any other questions. Councilor Tyler Moore, respond?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just for clarity, I thought you meant, or we meant, that the right in, right out would happen on Bailey.
Yes.
And the southbound on Pickering Beach Road, I'm just looking on my map here, I don't believe there's a medium there. That would still be a possible left in. Again, we're way in on details here.
The
But I just want-
region has said no to a left turn because of the closeness to the intersection on Pickering Beach, to my understanding.
Got it.
I'm suggesting that be a median. And so people, one, can't left turn in, and two, can't pull a U-turn to go
And-
back. Because right now, people are going through, pulling U-turn or turning into Power Valley Court to go back and make the right turn and head east on Bailey. Because like what Councillor Crawford said, people will go any way they can go to save 2 minutes on
Yeah.
their drive.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be right now to turn left, to turn west, southbound on Salem at Bailey. It queues up all the way past Laura Drive and
Right to the
almost
north.
to Achilles some days.
But just so I'm clear, the right in, right out, though, you were speaking of, would be on Bailey.
The right in, right out that I'm speaking of would be on Bailey,
Okay,
Bailey.
thank you.
on the eastbound lanes of Bailey to turn in. So you would have two access points, one on Pickering Beach and one on Bailey.
Oh, for our site?
Yes.
Oh. I don't know if we can accommodate.
Mr. Mayor, all I would say is it may be problematic for that entrance, even if the region was to allow it, just because of the environmental lands, as well as the building footprint itself is kind of right up against that limit. And the internal site workings would, I guess, just glancing at the site plan here, may compromise the design of the underground ramp that services the site, but we can explore Bailey, Pickering Beach, medians, and still have those discussions with the region. I just wanted to put that out there for the discussion.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not a traffic engineer. I'm just trying to look for solutions. So that's what I'm asking, is that we exhaust all possible accesses. Councilor Tyler Moore, were you finished?
I have more to speak, but maybe I'll do that.
Nope, finish up.
When we vote?
Oh, are you, do you
Yeah,
have any
I'm-
more questions to the opponent?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a traffic engineer, but it seems like if
Okay, Councilor Henry.
Thank you. So I wanted a point of clarification with regards to the affordable units and something you said with regards to parking. And I want to be clear about this point. Are you saying, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, are you saying that for the affordable units, there will be no parking spots offered?
Parking comes at a cost, okay, at any project. So if there is a rental charge for the parking spots, everybody has to pay. I'm saying if somebody has income of $53,000 a year, how can they afford a car? That's my thinking.
Okay, so
Because when I was
I'd
a
like,
student, I didn't have a car.
I'd like to respond to that.
Yes.
So currently in the region where we do have geared to rent income housing, those folks are entitled to the ability to have a car and parking. That is part of the system we have currently now. And if we are to then make it that folks that are in geared to rent income do not have that ability, we are creating a two-tier, two-class society. So I'd like that point of clarification addressed through the mayor of how we're going to do that if we're bringing forth an amendment.
You make a good point, because I had not even thought about the affordable units not having access to parking. I don't tie the two together. I don't assume if people are renting, they don't have a car.
Yes.
I have 4. I mean, it's, it just, I hadn't thought of that being tied together. That's not something I would support. I mean, I think if people should have the opportunity, and I think every unit should have that available to them. So how we-
100%. We
how
don't want
we
to
do
create a
that-
two-tier, two-class system.
How we do that, I don't know. I guess when we're done asking questions to the proponent, we can ask how that can be handled through site plan.
If I may, just speaking about parking, there's going to be, and maybe the proponent can help me understand, but when you rent a unit, you may also, part of your rental agreement might also include a parking spot if you want one, or multiple if there's extra. So I think this is something that's kind of negotiated between the tenant and the property management group. There's going to be X amount of parking spaces, and those all spaces will be available for tenants and visitors and car share spaces, etc. Not everybody's going to take a space, though, and some may want more than one space, but they'll pay for that space because that'll be part of their rent or whatever the arrangement is with that building management group. That's how I understand living in a condo at one time, how that would work, and renting in a building like that, where we had 2 vehicles and we only had 1 space per unit, but if we wanted another one, we had to pay X dollars a month for that extra space.
Correct, but what I don't want to see, and there's a difference, I was in an apartment for more than 11 years. I did pay for my space. But there's a difference between a market rent space and a market rent apartment and the parking space tied to it and the fee tied to that than a geared to rent income space and the parking space tied to that fee. And what I don't want to see is someone who is on the cusp of just affording what they can afford and having a market rent space in the unit and then being charged, a geared to rent income space being charged market space for the parking space. It should all be tied in as
You're
geared to
asking
rent.
that it's kind of like if you're having an affordable unit, the parking space should be affordable as well.
Correct.
So I guess that's something that I don't know if it's in zoning per se, but it must be something in the legal documents or agreements or rental agreements that are crafted.
I believe it's with CMHC, if I'm not mistaken. I know that like
I don't
my,
know if CMHC has anything to do with parking. So that's what we're talking about. So I'd have to see if that program, we can look into the details. I'm sure the proponent will provide us the documentation, et cetera,
Okay.
as part of that. And we definitely can report back or convey that information back once we find out about it. But I have your notes and I understand what I think you're asking for. So we can see where that kind of fits into the process, if that makes sense to everyone.
please, I don't want to price folks out of geared to rent income units or affordable units or however this is going to work.
Correct.
And price them out of the ability to afford a car.
Understood.
Because maybe a family of whatever can afford one car and they need that car for whatever reason.
Fair enough.
Okay? Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Okay, that completes the speakers list. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
for
Thank you.
hearing. Again, there isn't a motion. I guess we can hold off on, let me just go back to my thing here. All right, I think that now concludes the public meeting. Mr. Clerk, have we satisfied the requirement? That concludes the public meeting. We're moving on to bylaws. I have the motion here, moved by, requires 1/3, moved by Councillor Crawford, second by Councillor Tyler Moran. The bylaws number 48-2024 to 49-2024 be read a first, second, third time and passed. Before I open it up, let me try and assist because I think we need to do a couple of amendments here that have come out of the questions and whichever today. So I was just trying to find the correct spot, and I think I found for the second item, which is the parking for the affordable units, would be F subparagraph I, where, and there's really only three major changes to this over what's existing. Item 2D, which is deleting 199, adding 255, and item F, which speaks to the parking and the minimum maximum, where it says apartment dwelling, 0.88 parking spaces per dwelling unit for the exclusive use of residents. I would just add an amendment that this includes all units, including the affordable units. Would that satisfy what council has concern over? So, Councillor Henry, do you want to make that motion? Yes. That the wording be added to the end of this, that for the exclusive use of residents, and this includes the affordable units. Is that clear, Mr. Clerk? Okay. This is council seconder, Councillor Tyler Moran. Any discussion on that?
No, amendments are point of order.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no amendments will require the simple majority, and then the passing of the full bylaw is 1/3.
No, you don't want any amendments? You can support this. This is a good one. If there's nothing further, those in favor of the amendment? There is no point of clarification, but ask your question. We're just ensuring that the parking that's provided applies to all units, not just the regular full-price paid units, that everybody has access to parking.
Okay, thank you. I just, the other part of the amendment will come in the next piece, correct? Okay, thank you.
One at a time. Further on that? Okay, please open the vote. The second, and I would ask for some assistance on this, that, to do with the, where is the affordable units paragraph?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have confirmed the wording with planning.
Okay,
So we'd be looking at, if I understand correctly, your amendment would be for, in the ZBA 2H, we would add wording there to ensure that the affordable units be equally distributed by all unit types.
just to that, I don't think we can say that because there's not a large number of three-bedroom units. It would, in order to do that, to make it equal, would basically make almost every three-bedroom unit affordable, which is, I don't think was the intent.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, a mix of unit types, would that be reflective of the amendment?
I would say a mix of unit types.
A mix of unit types, okay. And then through you, Mr. Mayor, we would also, in clause 3, as one of the conditions for removal in the first bullet point there, we would include the same language. So the affordable units would be the mixture again.
Right. Can I get a, I don't want to move it, I'm in the chair. Who would like to move that? Counselor Henry, did you want to move that as well? Can I get a seconder, please? With regards to the affordable units being 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, not just all 1 bedrooms. Second by Counselor Crawford. Anything to say on this? We open the vote, please. Just trying to move things along. Okay, that carries. That's the amendments that I'm aware of. Is there any further amendments to this? Before we, and that's all through site plan. We're not dealing with site plan. We're not dealing with site plan today. That will be dealt with through site plan, I think. I think staff is pretty aware of the concerns of council, and we'll do everything they can to address those. I guess on the bylaws as amended, should I be doing these separately? Or, okay, on the bylaws as amended, please open the vote. Do we have to speak to it further, or have we? No? Okay. I guess, okay.
Members, we're waiting on one person. Oh, that is correct.
1, 2, 3, that carries. Thank you, everyone. That was a very good debate, and appreciate your support. Moving on to the next section, and we're going to take a break after this. I have an authority to hold a closed meeting and related in-camera session, moved by Councilor Lee, second by Councilor Henry. The council convened to a closed session pursuant to section 239, paragraph 2B, E, and F of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, a matter pertaining to litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Questions? Please vote. Go ahead. Turn your mic on. Go ahead.
Thank you. Maybe this is to the clerk. I'm sorry, was the result of the vote on 101 to 4-2?
3-3.
Was there not 4?
It was 3-3.
Yes, I understood that. I thought it was 4-2. Could we confirm that?
Even 4-2 would carry, but it's 3-3.
Well, no, I'm not sure that it would carry, would it? Because if we still needed 5,
With only
sorry,
with only 6 people, it would have to be 5-1.
No, that's not right. Based on what the clerk said, it's
Okay. Madam Clerk,
overall
could you
number
please
of,
clarify?
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, the ratios do not change based on the number of members council present today. So it did pass based on the 1/3 calculation of council.
And the vote was?
It was 4 against, 3 in favor.
No.
No.
There's only 6 here.
But
no. It
But-
was 4, I'm sure there were 4 red names up there, was there not?
it was 4 against, 3 in favor. However, the calculation for 1/3 takes into consideration all members.
How can
So
it be 4 against?
Who
when
was
there's only
3,
6
who was the
members?
third green?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Dyes does show as a red on the screen because she shows on the screen, but it does not count towards the calculation today. So it was 3-3. The mayor needed 3 votes to pass.
No, Marilyn was opposed.
Nancy Robbinshaw in favor. The other 3
Opposed.
opposed, Joanne doesn't count.
Correct.
You needed,
We needed 5 votes,
even if she's here,
Needed 5.
and the mayor needed just 2. Sorry. Oh, I thought he needed 3. Him and 2 others, or just him and somebody else?
2 others. It's 3-3.
3, okay. All right, sorry,
That's okay.
okay, thank you for clarifying.
So we are now going in camera. While we're clearing the room, it's 10:45. We'll reconvene back. That carries. We need to ratify actions taken in camera, which there weren't any. Moved by Councillor Crawford, second by Councillor Tyler Moore, and that all directions approved during the closed session will be ratified. Those in favor? That carries. Moved by Councillor Lee, second by Councillor Tyler Moore, and that bylaw number 50-2024 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ajax at its special meeting held on August 13th, 2024, be read a first, second, third time and passed. Just question, should we have the door open? Yes. We'll give that a second. I know, but just. Oh, boy. Okay, I'm going to go back to ratify actions taken in camera, moved by Councillor Crawford, second by Councillor Tyler Moore, and that all directions approved during the closed session be ratified. We already voted, but let's vote again. That is carried. And the confirming bylaw moved by Councillor Lee, second by Councillor Tyler Moore, and that bylaw number 50-2024 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ajax at its special meeting held on August 13th, 2024, be read a first, second, third time and passed. Those in favor? That carries. And finally, moved by Councillor Tyler Moore and second by Councillor Bauer, that the August 13th, 2024 special meeting of the Council of the Town of Ajax be adjourned. Those in favor? Done.